So we begin by looking at the front page of Wednesday's Telegraph, Leo.
So this leads with the big story. The trans law could turn parents into criminals. Basically, they're looking at outlawing conversion therapy for homosexuality and for transgender people as well. Now, conversion therapy is when you try and sort of convince somebody. So for gay people, you try and convince them they're not gay. It used to be done, with prayer or, just a few decades ago, it was done in quite barbaric ways. Lou Reed, the singer of the Velvet Underground, had electric shock therapy. They'd electrocute people and show them porn, which isn't going to... It's not going to stop you to change your sexuality. It's just going to introduce you to a kink, He
did end up married to Laurie Anderson, though, so it obviously worked to some extent for him. Or possibly he wasn't gay anyway, he was just weird.
And this is the thing. I mean, people who when they're teens display behaviour that's not your traditional 1950s stereotype of being a man or a woman. Currently, a blue-haired teacher, guardian reader, or liberal parent will leap on that teenager or that child and say, "Oh, you're definitely trans. You've got to transition." And are convinced, and then they're put in this pathway that they have to be affirmed, and they have to have the drugs and the everything else, the surgery.
So broadly speaking, the problem here is what amounts to a conversion therapy, because the way that some people frame it would say that any attempt to convince a child that they're not actually trans, that they're not been born into the right body, that's conversion therapy. The way you're framing it, which I have a lot of sympathy with, is to say that anyone who is showing signs of a feminine boy, oh, you must be trans.
Yeah, and
both of these could be framed as conversion therapy in a way.
Gender ideologists have sort of gripped our health service and say that we must affirm any transgender child or teenager. But a lot of these behaviours, a lot of these expressions, there's been a huge rise in the number of transgender teens. But are they really transgender? Are they just autistic or experimenting or doing something else?
It does kind of look as well as if the present government have no idea where they stand on this at all. They flip-flap back and forth. What do you think, Lewis?
Well, this reminds me, I'm quite familiar with this, because back in the day, conversion therapy was against religious cults, like if I can say the Moonies.
Yeah.
Like anybody, because kids used to be taken in by these people, or maybe if they decided to become and so their parents would send somebody in, and then there was big lawsuits. I don't think don't need to have a law.
But I remember there was Carl Sagan. You remember him?
Yes.
And he was a hero of the left, right? This was the guy who presented Cosmos, but he was a massive advocate for science and the age of reason and let's sweep away. He wrote a book called The Demon-Haunted World, which was about the last few attempts to rid the world of superstition. Absolute hero of the left. And he talked a lot about the dangers of affirmation in therapy. There was a guy who persuaded his therapist that he visited other planets at night, by astral travel. And the therapist agreed to kind of encourage him into thinking it was all just absolute nonsense.
But didn't he needed a slap to the head?
But now this has become the side of the left.
Yeah, absolutely. If you walk into the doctors and say, "I think I'm a horse," you'll be told, "Oh no, you're mentally ill." If you walk into the doctors,
or given the address of somebody who can make you a nice horse suit. I mean, that's happening, right? People dress up as horses and dogs and things.
But things that were traditionally seen, I mean, gender dysphoria is still registered as a mental illness. But for some reason, we've got to affirm it. And anything under this law, anything that doesn't affirm it, will be a crime. So if you're a therapist or a parent or a doctor, you won't be able to even discuss the options of anything other than full
and anybody who says
hormone
anything,
treatment and surgery to change the gender.
It opens up a whole kettle of fish. Is that anytime you say something against what somebody's doing. Back in the day, in my day, it was they went against the religious nuts. Now the government are the religious nuts.
Well, there's a picture of Kemi Badenoch on the front page, so that gives me hope that this will get sorted out.